Welcome to News Insight. A bright Monday morning. Kafo, you're looking dope. Peter, my hair and your head like they are the same thing.
Thank you.
All right. So what a beautiful week. Last week was full of a lot of activity politically, and the one that dominated the news most was that of IBB, trying to explain to us how June 12th went. Yeah. It's all, but we'll discuss all that today.
Yeah.
But in the footballing arena this weekend, Liverpool seems to seal their deal on the top of the table.
I think we'll talk about that later.
Wow. And I'm just feeling for Arsenal fans. Peter, sorry, right?
No, that's not.
Oh, she really?
No, I'm not.
Okay, all right. Okay, so today, Cosmas Maduka, a serial entrepreneur. Yeah. MD, CEO, chairman, Charis, founder, everything, and he's telling us that not much would have been done by Peter Obi, even if he won the elections. But going through all he said, I don't know what you guys think about that. Ukafo.
Yeah, sincerely, it's difficult to compare what is and what you think, or what is not. It's essentially difficult to compare Asiwaju government and P2B's government that has never existed. You understand?
I mean, a shadow government.
A government that is in the minds of the people.
Yes.
So if Buhari was not allowed, let me use the word,
to rule
Nigeria,
we would have tagged the president we never had.
We would have tagged the president we never had. But when he came on board for 6 months, everything we already know we're headed to next. And for the entire 8 years, there is nothing significant that we can say he really did so well. Why people are just giving him a little credit was because the current government are still missing a lot of points. But back to what Maduka himself said, he appears to be confused for the most part.
Yes.
If you literally listen to him.
Yes.
He said Obi would have removed
subsidy immediately.
Yes. He also said this government that they should be spending government money judiciously. That if you remove subsidy, that it doesn't end there. You should spend government money judiciously. If you think they should spend government money judiciously, that is what Obi would have done differently. That is a possibility.
Because right now,
yes,
we are not seeing that money being spent judiciously.
That's right. So there are a lot of things Obi could have. Like I said, you can't compare what is not to what is. But given the privilege of comparing it, assuming Obi, there was a government called Obi's government, we were almost sure that Obi would spend government money judiciously. For example, when he was Anambra State governor, he insisted that the cars to be purchased will be innocent cars. So probably as a president, he would have insisted that locally manufactured cars must be bought for government usage, except where they are not adequate. And there are almost no cases where they are not adequate, apart from security vehicles or maybe bulletproof cars for the president and things like that. And those ones, you don't buy them every day. There are a lot of things. Putting certain measures to a kind of be a buffer to absorb the shock can be one of what Obi could have done differently.
At least Obi would have not bought a new presidential aircraft.
Obi would have not bought a new presidential jet. There are a lot of things. Also, removing the subsidy gradually rather than suddenly could have been what Obi would have done differently. There are many things Obi would have done differently. You can't compare really absolutely what is and what is not. But if we were Obi's lifestyle and his method of governance as a governor, these two people were former governors. There was nothing else that they were other than those just former governors, and maybe entrepreneurs, or Tinubu was a worker. Okay, when we look at their lifestyles and their leadership style, I can authoritatively tell you that Obi would have done a lot of things differently.
Peter, Maduka's complaint is that nothing Obi would have done differently. That's basic. But he also came down and said, you don't remove money from somewhere, create excess and use it to marry wives, right? He said they should have put on infrastructural development. We have not seen any of those. 2 years is going down the line. Don't you think Obi would have done differently?
That's interesting. I wonder how I should answer this question. But Maduka is a man who should take seriously. A man that has a business that has survived this our horrendous economic atmosphere. A lot of businesses has collapsed, a lot have closed, a lot have moved on, but he stays. So when he speaks, we should listen. Yeah, there's some political undertone in what he said. He has given his government a pass mark. But policy-wise, yes, probably Obi would have removed subsidy. He would have done the same thing Tinubu did. But implementation is where the key is. Obi, during the campaign, promised to remove subsidy. But the way this government has implemented it is anti-people. He has brought pains to people. Probably Obi would have told the same line. We are eager for this subsidy to go because the scam there is much. But the money is recovered from subsidy removal. We are not seeing it. They were not investing in infrastructure. Listen, Obi probably would have used this money, would have seen, okay, we are building roads on this. You know, this money we are recovered from subsidy. So Obi probably would have done what he said differently, but policy-wise, probably. So I get where it's coming from.
Okay, so let's take the life of Maduka.
Yeah.
Maduka, not educated, got into mechanic work, got out of mechanic work and established his own. Couldn't pay the best experts, brought boys from the streets, and from there has built a company. We can see him go from down to up where he is today.
Yeah.
But our own country, you can't start from the top and be coming down. The basic issue is this: where the money for subsidy should go into.
Yes.
The first person that removed subsidy that we know practically was Abacha. As bad as Abacha was, in quotes, I don't see him as bad though. Yeah. As bad as we think he was, we saw PTF. Thank you, sir. We saw roads. We saw grants to schools. We saw hospitals. National Hospital was built. Gwarimpa was built by PTF and so many roads. Don't you think that would have been an example they should have followed?
First of all, I do not believe Maduka is not educated. Maybe the education he had wasn't a conventional one. Yeah. Education doesn't have to be just a classroom thing. Okay. Formal one. Okay. And that's also one of the problems we are facing today. If we are ticking the box, the person didn't graduate in the same school from you think he's not educated. They are experiential learning, and they are actually a very valuable education. That said, Maduka talked about usage of the money. He also hinted about collection of loans, something that is very, very important. Yes, usage of the money. What are the infrastructural development? What are the key sectors? You see, when you have infrastructural development being driven by politics, there will not be national development. For example, if we are, instead of thinking of a rail network to connect Lagos and Abuja, and a road to connect Lagos and Abuja to be built by a minister, for example, Umahi, he would think, what has my state benefited? They would rather go to Ebonyi to do one road. They will go to, where is the woman leader, national woman leader for APC, for example. They will go there, they do one road, they will go, and that is why we are scattered. We do not have a 30-year plan. We do not have connection, a cohesive plan of infrastructure. We don't have that. If we have a cohesive plan of infrastructure that is not dependent on where the national chairman comes from, where the senate president comes from, I can assure you now that as Senator Bab, if you go to his village, everywhere there now has street lights. Everywhere, and I can assure you. You understand? Rather than having a cohesive national infrastructural development plan, which is not dependent on where Asiwaju himself is from. We are not doing that. Another thing he talked about is the loan. Let me tell you, he justified that you can always take loan.
Which you have already said before.
Which you have already used it for infrastructure, which you have said before. But something very important that we don't look at, about the loan is conditions of the loan. Conditions of the loan. What are the conditions surrounding your business entity, in this case Nigeria as an entity? What are the conditions surrounding our fiscal policies? What are the conditions of taking the loan from somebody? If a loan says, oh, when you take it in the next 10 years you don't pay me, I'll become the president of Nigeria, or you lose your sovereignty, will you take that? So what are they mortgaging? Under what conditions are they mortgaging our future? And what is our balance sheet? Where are we for you? There's something called jarring ratio. You understand? What is our jarring ratio as a nation that we are taking loan? Ratio of the loan we have as to what we generate. Okay? And all those, what are the indexes that we are relying on to take loan? Like we're talking about Peter Obi, what was the loan Obi took as a governor the day he was leaving? Or what is the amount of loan Anambra was owing? He had it, you saw his shit. Rather, he had investments. He had investment which people criticized.
And had financial backbone to which the government that was coming would lean on.
Yes, in investment analysis, there's what we call risk lovers and risk averse investors. So this also affects how you lead. It affects how you take decisions. So Obi would have done a lot of things differently. Certain loans he might not take, and certain ones he would take. And the other day that they cost on generated additional money rather than
saving and using for.
He could use it to reduce our loan. A lot of things he could have done.
It could have been a buffer zone for us.
A lot of things,
because this well, we will not talk about the financing of the loan because the financing of the loan is going to be a lot on borrowing.
Yes.
So now you are getting some revenues back. You are now increasing your budget, which economically
and
doesn't.
We don't even know what those things
are that were included in it.
Be to share to the poor, which the
Peter,
poor will not see.
your concluding message.
I'll take the line of Maduka. Borrowing isn't a bad thing, but what are you borrowing for? What are you using it for? If it's used for infrastructure, it will repay itself. If you use for investment, it will repay itself. But borrowing for recurrent expenditure is, for me, a no-no. Because it's not going to repay. You borrow with tendency to pay back. Yes, the conditions there, we don't know. But what he's saying that borrowing isn't bad, and which I too. But what are we borrowing for? So that's where this government should be more open. We should know what this government is borrowing for.
Like I chip in, those conditions are the things that will let you know whether that investment can pay back. It doesn't just pay back by mouth. It doesn't just say, oh, once I carry this and I do infrastructure, that infrastructure must pay back. Not infrastructure will pay back.
Yeah.
The interest rate accumulates so much. And what it will be yielding in a year will never be more than after minusing the recurring, the running cost. That is not a good investment at the end of the day.
I think one of the reasons we are even giving this attention to what Maduka said is because we are not seeing any improvement on ground. The people have been more impoverished and there are no structures on ground.
Yes.
And
also trying to deny the public that there is no option
in Obi or any other person.
Yes. Or any other person.
Yes. This policy is still in the right way. We're heading in the right direction. That's what you said.
Exactly. So the policies definitely are not.
Probably not going to the destination. But from what he said, for whom he is and believing him, Nigeria is heading to the right direction. So with time we will know.
Well, Nigeria headed to the right direction. We are yet to see it, and we don't even see prospect. And like Okafor said, what are this money being used for? Well, maybe we'll leave it there and look at how we progress in the next dispensation. As in 2 years is going now. We'll be right back on News Insight.